Hello, in this video I'm going to give a brief introduction to a specialized function of the cell membrane called the transmembrane potential. A transmembrane potential is also known as a membrane potential, and it's sort of like a battery. It has the potential to do work due to ion separation across the cell membrane. Most cells in our body maintain a transmembrane potential, but this is really important for muscle cells, including our heart muscle cells, and it's also really important for our neurons. So it turns out there's a charge or a voltage difference between the inside of a cell and the outside of the cell. One side of the cell membrane is positive and the other side of the cell membrane is less positive. The reason for this is because there's been a separation of ions across the cell membrane. Cells place certain ions outside and other ions inside, and the ions cannot easily cross the cell membrane. They're kind of stuck wherever we put them. So we end up with this voltage or charge difference between the inside and the outside of the cell. Because of this charge difference, cell membranes are said to be polarized at rest. Remember, to be polar means to have a positive end and a negative end, or you can think of it as a positive end and a less positive end, right? So like the earth and like a battery, cell membranes are polar. Transmembrane potentials can change. And they can change, and that's really important because this is how we are going to do things like contract our muscles. A transmembrane potential can change when an ion channel opens and the ions move either into or out of the cell. This causes the voltage to move also, and we can use this to do work. Let's take a look at an example at the top of the screen. So we have 5 positive ions outside of our cell and 1 positive ion inside the cell. And let's say we could measure these voltages, and let's say outside of the cell was measuring 170 millivolts and inside the cell was measuring 100 millivolts. So right now the difference between the two is 70 millivolts. We say the difference is negative 70 because we always talk about what the inside looks like compared to the outside. So the inside, 100, is more negative than 170, so we say this is a negative 70 millivolt difference. The change can occur in the transmembrane potential if we open up an ion channel. So now the ions move from an area of high concentration outside of the cell to the area of low concentration inside the cell. And as the ions move, the voltage will change too. And we just added positive ions to the inside of the cell. Are we going to stay at 100 millivolts if we just added positive ions to the inside? So now the voltage has changed, and now the difference between the inside and the outside is only negative 50 millivolts. Changes in transmembrane potential occur in response to a particular stimulus. In other words, something has to open the channel, right? Movement or chemicals or voltage or temperature are things that can open these channels. Changes in transmembrane potential lead to other important changes in physiology. And this is how we're going to touch things, like have our sense of touch, if you will. And this is how we're going to move our large skeletal muscles to move our body. And this is how we're going to beat our heart. And this is how we're going to have nerve impulses travel through our brain. So this is a very important concept, but we will revisit it as we study things like muscle physiology and neurophysiology.